Welcome to episode 130, my connected thoughts, reflections on the Mass. Talked about in the previous episode how the Mass is the center of our life, the center of the sacraments. And now I want to get into a more practical element here. I want to go through the Mass, and I'm going to use what's called the Novus Ordo of the New Order. It's the Mass, as most people are familiar with, that has been promulgated in 1969 after the Council. And there's also the Vetus Ordo, the Old Mass, prior to the Council, Mass of 1962, which is the last revision of the Roman Missal, which is the book that has the text for the Mass. And so it's permitted in the church today to have both the Novus Ordo or the Vetus Ordo, the new Mass or the Mass of Paul VI, or the ordinary form, as it's called, compared to the Old Mass or the extraordinary form. Some also call it the Ordo Recentior, the most recent order, or the Ordo, what do they call that? Antiquior, the older Ordo. So we get these two forms of the Mass. And of course, there's been a movement by Pope Benedict to see them in mutual enrichment, hopefully leading towards a convergence at some point in the future. Under Francis, there was a kind of a movement backwards there to kind of discourage the Old Mass, or sometimes called the traditional Latin Mass. But nevertheless, as I'm making these reflections in 2025, both forms of Mass are permitted. I am going to comment on the Novus Ordo, the new Mass, but there's many options in the new Mass. And so I'm going to take those options which are most in continuity with the Mass prior to the Council, the extraordinary form, Old Mass, traditional Latin Mass, which is perfectly permissible. That is to say, in the new order of Mass, there are many choices you can make, a priest can make, or a bishop can make. And so I'm going to comment on the Mass as I think the Council intended. I call this, by the way, the Mass of Vatican II. There's a little booklet. If you want to follow along, you can go to Ignatius Press website, ignatius.com, and you can buy yourself a copy of that little booklet. But this is the ordinary form, the new Mass, with options taken that most closely are in conformity with the Mass prior to the Council. But they're all permitted in the new Mass. A second distinction is between what's called the propers of the Mass and the ordinary. The propers of the Mass are those things which change every day, like the introit, antiphon, or the collect, the prayer, or the offertory prayer, or the post-communion prayer. The ordinary is a part of Mass which stays. It's ordinary. It's there every day. Introductory rites, the canon, and so on. I am going to follow the first canon, the so-called Roman canon, and I'll explain to that in the next session. But so that's the idea here. I'm going to take the Mass as the center of our lives, reflect on it in this form, the Novus Ordo, with options that make it as close as possible to the traditional Mass. We'll see you later about that.